All right. Hey guys and gals, maybe. Mostly maybe. All right. Mostly whoa. There we go. I think I got another window open here. Yep. Boom. Shut that window down. Should be good to go. Give me a comment. Second best beard. Yeah, right. Give me a comment if you can hear me. Just want to make sure. Test. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Let's make sure we got the right mic. Test. Testing. Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you. It's not coming up in the bottom there, so I just wanted to make sure. All right. Let's get into this. Thanks everyone for those who really pushed me to get the interview with Sandy Munro. I wasn't originally going to do that, but so many of you asked that I figured it would be something that would be good to do. So thanks for pushing me to do that, and I think it turned out pretty good. I wish I would have done a few things different, but I think all in all, when I look at the total end product, I think I'm pretty happy with it. The audio sounded pretty good. That was one big complaint from the initial interview that I did with him in August. So I'm glad that I got that taken care of. And yeah, thanks for the interview. So I'm gonna cover a couple of things, and then I'll try and keep an eye on questions as well as they come in. But I want to share some of my takeaways, some things that I thought after sitting down with Sandy. And by the way, he's just super great. He is very easy to talk to, very approachable. He does a lot of important stuff, and you would never know if you walked up to him on the street or ran into him at a cafe. You wouldn't know all the valuable things that he does for companies. If you don't know too much about him, he has more or less a consulting firm that helps companies and organizations improve their products. So they'll bring their products to him, they'll analyze them, break them down, and then Munroe and Associates will make suggestions on how to make it better, lighter, faster, how to decrease costs and increase profits. Companies also hire him to do analytical research on their competitors. So, for example, an automotive company might hire Munroe and Associates to buy one of their competitors' vehicles, break it down, and figure out what they've done, sort of reverse engineer it. And so that's one of the reasons why I think he's such an interesting person to talk to. They're engineers. He's an engineer. His team are engineers. And, they don't really seem to get too caught up in the politics of things. They just want to understand how things work and figure out the cost. Hello from Serbia. Thanks so much. Figure out the cost and figure out what can be done better. So I just think that he's really, really great. And even he sent me an email last night and asked how the video was doing, and what sort of feedback that people had on the video, good or bad. So a couple of thoughts that I want to share here. So one thing is for sure, after talking with Sandy Munro, this truck is going to be a very different way to make a truck. The Cybertruck is. And what I think is impressive about this Cybertruck is Tesla took a huge risk, I think, in my opinion, by creating this truck that looks so different. In my opinion, it was a huge risk on their part. The R&D. Thanks. I'm glad some of you like my beard better. I was just trolling Gally. He's a good friend of mine, and wanted to sort of make that live stream a little bit fun. I'm a fan of him, just like you are. So I was watching and listening and learning and trying to tune into some of his thoughts on it. It's a primary way that I get financial analysis about Tesla, and so I really appreciate his perspective. But it's a big risk. I think it was a big risk for Tesla to do something like this. But I expect from today to when they start producing this vehicle that people are going to warm up to it. I myself have been a vocal critic of the design. Not that I think that it's, well, I think I've gone from it originally thinking that it was ugly at the event to thinking now it's just different. And I bet by the time that this thing goes into production, I'll probably have warmed up to it a lot. It doesn't mean that I'm going to buy it. Trucks are just not my style. I prefer more of a sleeker design, and I don't really have a big need for a pickup truck either. I'm not hauling a lot of stuff around. When I do haul stuff around, I can put it in the back of my S that I have. So, yeah, this is a big risk for Tesla, but in terms of the visual appearance. But I think that there's some remarkable innovations and design improvements, manufacturing improvements with what they're going to be doing with the Cybertruck. And one of them has to do with this exoskeleton. And the one burning question that I had personally, because so many people, not so many people, but a handful of people in one of my previous, in my analysis of the Cybertruck, my initial one, said that there's no difference between the unibody, or the body in white, as Sandy called it. There's no difference between that and the exoskeleton. But what Sandy confirmed was that there is a significant difference with the two. And the exoskeleton makes it so that there's far more room on the interior. With the unibody, or the body in white, you have the frame of the vehicle, but then in addition to that, let me just turn off my notifications for my computer here. Do not disturb. So with the unibody, you have the frame of the vehicle, right? You have this sort of, if you saw the interview with Sandy, I did do some pictures of that, and I'll get to your question here in just a second. Thank you so much. But then you also have to put the body panels onto that unibody, and so it's very different from the exoskeleton in that the exterior of the vehicle is the actual frame of the car. So I think that there's some improvements there. Of course, the truck is going to be exceptionally strong and rigid, and be able to take a big beating. The stainless steel that they've got on there, to me, is really interesting. I'm really curious to see how they take what they know from making spaceships, rockets, to producing these crazy looking trucks. And are there going to be some cost efficiencies because they're buying the raw materials, or manufacturing this same stainless steel? The 300 series, Sandy called it. Are there going to be some efficiencies there because they're both, SpaceX and Tesla are buying this stuff in bulk and mass producing it? So I wonder if there's any difference there with that. But it appears to be that there are some manufacturing efficiencies there, and of course some durability efficiencies there. You're not going to have to worry about this thing rusting. You're not going to have to worry about it being painted or getting nicked up or scratched up. So let me get to this question here. Sandy made a great point about the truck being quiet for hunting. Did you talk more about this? P.S. Of course, your beard is better, but Galley's glasses are more hip. I'm gonna have to up my game with my glasses. Yeah, I noticed Galley got a new set of glasses because he had like this clear frame at the bottom of his. So he's upped his. He goes through glasses like nobody's business. We didn't talk more about the hunting thing, but I do think it's really interesting. Of course, you would get this with any electric truck. So you get it with the Rivian R1T, and any of these other ones that any other manufacturers are going to make in the future. You know, we know that Ford is planning on making an electric F-150. It'll be interesting to see what that turns out to be, and how good the range is. I think Sandy was a little bit more optimistic about an F-150 pickup truck. I can't remember if that was live on camera or if that was off camera, but he was pretty optimistic about them having a competing product, but the range is going to be the biggest struggle. And I can talk a little bit about that because I've been thinking a lot about competitive range with other automakers. Of course, I did a video about this a week or two ago. With the title, Are Traditional Automakers Screwed? But Yeah, we didn't really go into detail about the hunting thing, but it could be really really interesting. The electric powertrain, of course, will be a huge advantage if you need to be out in the wilderness. Um, I think the solar canopy will be extremely valuable if you are taking this electric truck out into the wilderness too. So to put some range on that puppy as you're out there and not anywhere close to any sort of electric infrastructure to charge it, most likely, unless you've got a cabin that you're coming back to each night and plugging in. But most people that I know that go camping or hunting here in Colorado, they are definitely out in the wilderness. So yeah, more rural charges are needed in South Dakota. Yeah, for sure. But that's one of the appeals about going hunting, is that you're sort of getting away from modern society and getting to a place that's more quiet and not as much going on. So I get it. Yeah, so I think that this is going to be a very different way to produce a truck. If they can nail this, the profit margin on this truck is going to be quite impressive. Teslas have always had a pretty good profit margin per car, but if the truck doesn't need to go through stamping, it doesn't need to go through paint, this could definitely help. And then there's also the fact that, well, what we all expect to follow this pretty closely is that the implementation of Maxwell's dry battery electrode process should also help cut down on cost of producing the vehicle as a whole, right? Because if you have to go through that wet electrode process and the dry coating when you're creating these cells, you don't have that. You're skipping process. You're saving time. You're saving money. Therefore, so I'm really really interested to see what happens there. That was one of my takeaways after talking with Sandy, is that this is a very different but a very exciting and improved way to produce a truck. There's a big part of me that's thinking they might do this with the rest of their vehicles if this truck sells really well. Batteries. So I want to talk about that as well. I've been thinking about this, and we're about 2 years away from them starting to produce this. Are they going to use existing battery technology, or will it be new technology? And when I asked Sandy this question, I think he was very cautious about making any assumptions because he hasn't had a chance to break it down. Here's one thing I'm pretty confident about. I don't think that they're going to use older battery technology for the less expensive, and then newer technology for the longer range, the more expensive ones. I would expect, based on what they've done previously, that they're going to use one battery technology and then scale up the battery size from there, scale up or scale down the battery size based on which variant someone is purchasing. So then the next question is, are they going to use old battery tech or new battery tech? And you have to assume that if some of these things that we know about the cost reduction of Maxwell's DBE, if Tesla gets into either or both battery recycling or the raw materials business, they should see some cost efficiencies there as well. I'm going to lean more towards that they're going to put their new battery tech in this. For $40,000, I guess there is a little bit of a risk there. Are the costs of these batteries going to be inexpensive enough to be able to put in a $40,000 vehicle? You're 2 years away. They're 2 years away, so maybe. But I'm going to lean towards they're going to use newer tech and really really leverage that for this vehicle. You got to think, though, for a 500-mile plus battery range, that there's something in there other than just a larger pack. And I've seen some people say that the larger pack could just be a double stack battery pack. I know that Elon has said that that's what's in the Roadster, but there's another part of me that thinks that yes, that's a possibility that they could double stack the pack. But if they improve the energy density in the pack, do they really need a double stack? Because you're also increasing the weight of the vehicle, and there is also a cost increase to put more cells in a double stack battery pack. So there's a big part of me who's always been skeptical of a double stack pack in the Roadster, and so I want to say that it's probably just better energy density batteries instead of a double stack. So just single stack battery pack with just more energy dense battery cells in them. So that's something that I've been marinating on since the interview with Sandy a few days ago. Another thing that I think you have to consider here, when Tesla was considering making this vehicle, to me, based on what I thought about, there's 4 truck functions, and maybe you can add some more if you think that there's something else that I'm missing here. But when thinking about making an electric truck, I think there's 4 things. Number 1 is price. You have to get the price right. If it's a $200,000 pickup truck, you're gonna limit the amount of people who will be able to afford that. So that's probably first and foremost. Range is probably second to price. Towing, and then cargo capacity. What can you fit in the bed? What can you fit in the stowaways or compartments that are in the frunk, or in other places that Tesla has created? The lower storage area in the bed, I've seen that one, and in the sails. So those are the 4 things: price, range, towing, cargo. And if Tesla or any automaker can address those things, I think that they can make a hit. And that's why I think that so many people are interested in this truck, even despite it looking very different from what people are used to with conventional pickup trucks. So that's another thought that I had. And then I want to add just a wild theory that I've got with this truck. And then I'll go through and parse through some of the questions. So my wild theory is this truck could be amphibious. You know how Elon has talked about how he wants to make, he wants to turn that Lotus vehicle that he bought that was in the James Bond movie. He bought that and he wanted to turn it electric and make it truly an electric amphibious vehicle. And then right around the Cybertruck event, they changed their, where's my phone? They changed the Tesla's profile. And I think that they only did this on their Instagram, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they added airplanes and boats to their profile. So let me take a look at this here. Tesla. So their profile says automotive, aircraft, and boat. So part of me wonders if this truck will be able to be amphibious. This is just pure speculation. It just has me wondering, with all of the things that they've done to this vehicle, could this be something that you can actually take and use as a boat at a very minimum? I don't know if it will be able to go underwater, but will this be something that you can buy as a package? I don't know. But the fact that Tesla, why did Tesla put in their bio automotive, aircraft, and boat? Is this a foreshadowing of things to come? I can't imagine that they would do that. Have they done this on their Twitter, or is it just Instagram? Let me check. Tesla. Yeah, so on their Twitter, it's electric cars, giant batteries, and solar. Now, it does say that on their Instagram, but it also says automotive, aircraft, and boat. So why are they doing that? That's my question. And can this Cybertruck do a little bit more than what they've already said? All right. So how deep are we in? So we're about 20 minutes in. I want to take some questions here. And fly, yeah, we'll see. I mean, if they're Do you think, I wonder how closely the patents follow some of what they're talking about. All right. So add your questions here. I'm happy to take some. I saw a few come in. What battery do you think will be in the Model Y? Well, the Model Y, for the cost today, it'll be the batteries that are in the Model 3 right now, the 2170. You got to assume that. Okay, so super chat. I think the truck batteries physical design will be modular with Model 3 and Y, allowing legacy owners of 3 and Y to upgrade to battery pack for say 10,000, thus initiating a feeder volume for Redwood. Thoughts? I think that's an interesting question. I think it could be too much work to do retrofits with newer battery technology. I could be totally wrong. I don't have any insider information on this, so I'm only just sort of guessing in the dark here. But you have to think about where is best for Tesla to spend their time and their money. Like if they need to make money, selling new cars is probably better than retrofitting old cars. Now, they could, as people trade in their vehicles for newer ones, they could take those battery packs and reuse them or recycle them. But they've tended to stay away from creating too much revenue on the service side. In fact, I think we probably saw this just yesterday when Elon was responding to questions about the retrofit of MCU-1 to MCU-2. He's like, service will do it, but it's not a good idea. It's not a good way to spend your money. So he was actually, I thought that was a really interesting response. Like, for people who accuse him of being, a money fraudster, you'd think that he would be sort of pining to get as much money as possible, but he's actually telling people publicly that they shouldn't do it, that it's not a good idea and not a good way to spend your money. So I don't know. I really like the idea of the recycling piece. I know Gally has talked about that in detail, and the more he talks about it, the more that I like it. I think it's a really good way to do things. But I'm also equally bullish on the idea of Tesla controlling their raw materials. In fact, these are two things that I think. These are two predictions that I think Tesla could make, or announcements that they could make at the battery and powertrain investor day, that they're getting into the raw materials business. I think that piece is really important. This is just a side note here, since I have everyone's attention here. I think that's incredibly important because currently they're at the whim of whatever the market does with the most important part of the car, these raw materials, mostly nickel and cobalt. I think that they want to control that. I think that they want to try and drive down the cost, or at least make the cost a little bit more predictable. Right now, if costs go up for some of these raw materials, then that cuts into their profit margin, and that could cause them to increase the cost of vehicles. Can you do the math to see how much a Cybertruck battery would cost? $1,000 for the motor, a few grand to bend the metal, and they are going to crush everyone with an extremely cheap battery. There's a lot of assumptions that you have to make about the cost of a future vehicle. It's commonly understood that the most expensive part of an electric vehicle is the battery pack. And so you'd have to predict where the cost is going to go for that battery pack in 2 years. And Tesla stopped talking about the cost per kilowatt hour at the cell level, or any cost per kilowatt hour, whether at the cell or the pack level, for at least a year, maybe a couple of years now. They've stopped talking about it, and they've sort of avoided answering any questions about it too. We'll probably know more from this battery and drivetrain investor day, I would imagine. But when I got my battery pack replaced a little over a year ago, I asked them how much it would have cost me out of pocket, and they said this is a 75 kilowatt hour pack, and they told me that it would be about $20,000. So that's it's been a year since then. Maybe the cost has fallen with some of these new investments that Tesla's making into reducing the cost of cells. See my water bottle here. I'm just going to take a quick drink. Maybe they can push that down by 50%, maybe 100%, maybe 50%. Yeah, 50%, not 100%. Sorry. So I think that it's paramount in many ways. You know, Tesla needs to drive down the cost of their vehicles so that they can continue to offer more vehicles at lower prices, more electric vehicles at lower prices. And I think that they're the ones to do it. They're the ones to do this because they're the ones that are producing the most electric vehicles. I'm pretty sure that still remains to be the case. Okay, what do you think about the semi sales in 2020? Well, Jerome Guillen said on, I believe it was the last quarterly conference call, that they're going to start low production of semi trucks in 2020. If I remember correctly, and please, anyone who knows for certain, speak up, but I believe he said by mid 2020. So halfway through. I mean, these are big vehicles and require a lot of batteries. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what the volume is. If I had to take a guess, if you want a guess of mine in terms of volume, you know, I would think that they probably would want to address some of their biggest customers first, some of the customers who have some of the largest orders. I don't know. This is a completely different product. I don't think that they've even said where they're going to make this. I think that they're still deciding on what they're going to do there. In 2020, maybe they make 200 semi-trucks in 2020. How about 220 in 2020? That'd be fun, right? Do you think that Tesla will make a mega charger network, or more like a service maintenance hub for robo-taxis with charger? You know, the charging network thing, and especially faster charging, is really interesting to me. Elon has talked a lot about making superchargers completely renewable, powered by renewable, but I'm not quite sure how that works. I'm not sure. I don't think that they can do that on site, you know, have enough solar to be able to do that on site. It's possible that they may buy some land somewhere on each continent, build huge solar arrays, solar systems, and then sell that, and then claim that you know, based on how much they're making, that they're offsetting the power that that the superchargers are using with that renewable that they're generating, something like that. I'm not sure how that works. So I have a lot of questions about that. In terms of a mega charger network, they need to make something. They need to start building that out for semi trucks. So, you know, should we hear something this year about them starting to build mega chargers for the semi trucks? Probably. I bet that they start in California. So maybe that's a better strategy. In fact, they might be making semi trucks more for California customers, for trucks that are doing California routes. Maybe they partner together with some of these companies to build mega chargers on site at these companies' facilities and businesses. That makes sense as well. You know, the range of these things is not going to be ideal for long haul. You know, for long haul, you probably need between, you know, 1,000 to 2,500 miles of range per, at least in order for it to be competitive with diesel semi trucks. You know, a lot of diesel semi trucks, as I understand it, can go 2,000 miles plus before they need to fill up again. when is your estimate for full self-driving and or robo-taxis in the USA? You know, I've been extremely silent about about autonomy and robo-taxis because Elon Musk has been promising that autonomy is coming for. I think the first time that he made a prediction, he said it was going to be available in 2016. It's obviously almost 2020, and so I've gotten really gun shy about taking Elon at his word. And you know, I don't necessarily blame him. I think he needs to be a little bit more careful about predictions that he makes, especially when there are variables that could be outside of his control, like edge cases. He's talked a lot about this. It's really hard to get those edge cases. I don't know if it was real or not, but I saw a video over the weekend, I think it was, on Twitter, where someone was filming a horse running down a highway. The skeptic in me thought that was computer generated, but you know, that's a really good example of an edge case. Like, you have an autonomous vehicle who's driving on the highway, and it picks up a picks up a horse running free. So I don't know if I'm ready to make a prediction about when full self-driving or robo taxis will come. Elon has said that it will be ready by the end of this year. This is a year ago that he made this prediction. He was very definitive when he was on that podcast with Kara Swisher, the Recode podcast. And here we are a year later, and Elon's talking about they're going to try really hard to get the beta, the beta versions out to their beta fleet. So I think that there's a lot of variables that sometimes Tesla doesn't see and Elon Musk doesn't see, and they get a little bit ahead of themselves. So I'm not really answering your question, but you see how I'm torn a little bit. I'm quite a bit gun shy with assuming that, and that's a big reason why I don't talk about it a lot. The other reason why I don't talk about full self-driving a lot is because I don't have it in my car, and so I don't have a lot of experience with it. I know it, and I've used it, and it's impressive, but I still think that there's a lot of improvement to make on it. And I think there's only maybe a small handful of Tesla owners who are not as bullish as most are about what I'm very excited about the long-term potential of it, and I can't wait until I get into a car and it drives me wherever I need to go. But I don't think it's quite there yet. All right, so I'm just following the bottom here and then going up. Hello from Australia. Hello from Germany. All right, looking for question marks and statements. So if you're not putting question marks in, I probably am overlooking. Okay, I lied. I see a question here. Do you think that Tesla will make a mega charger network? Okay, so I think I covered that one already. What do you think about the semi-truck sales in 2020? Covered that one. Tesla problem is the demand they're creating, and the disruption of the ICE motor may cause them to go down the path of many new products of varying industries. Yeah, I mean, in general, I'm a big fan of focus, not doing too much. But I think that if you take a look at how they can address transitioning from fossil fuel to zero emissions, they're probably going to do as much as they can to take on some of the biggest emitters. You know, consumer vehicles is a good one. Semi-trucks is a good one. I really like the idea of them addressing the power generation and utility market, because that's another one, right? If you can sell your battery packs, your mega packs to power and utility providers, that's another way to sort of close that loop. And you know, if you're charging your vehicle and you're getting your power from a utility that has those, you're then charging hopefully with cleaner energy. Hopefully. Doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the case. All right. Think they will beat specs by release? Yes. Derek, Good question. Will Tesla beat their Cybertruck specs by the time they release it? Yes, particularly on the range side. Look how they phrased the range. It was not just 250 miles or 500 miles. It was 250 plus, or what's the middle range one? 400, 300, I can't remember, but 500 plus. So I think that they're fairly optimistic that they can beat those, and I think that they're conservative on that range. I think that that's the bottom end. If they use what they're doing today, then I think that that would be the range. But I think that they know that they've got better technology that they can put in those trucks. How do you know the energy density will be double? I don't know if it will double, but you know, if you understand what Maxwell had and what they were stating, I believe that their last thing, and maybe I can check this here because I have a little folder on my desktop for Maxwell Tech here. So current Tesla battery cells have about a 250 watt hour per kilogram energy density. Maxwell stated that they today have technology that has a 300 watt hour per kilogram energy density. And they've demonstrated a path to 500 watt hours per kilogram. So that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to see the 500 watt hours per kilogram. Is it likely? There's probably a pretty good chance, especially with the amount of investment that's going into batteries, to lithium batteries. You know, maybe by the time we get to 500 watt hours per kilogram, maybe that's when we see the solid state. I don't know, but doubling the energy density is definitely really fascinating to me, and a dagger in gasoline and diesel vehicles. What battery do you think will be in the Model Y? I think I covered that one. Have you written into the NTSB in favor of this? It's currently accepting public comment about letting vehicles have no, I didn't know that actually. I didn't know that they were taking comment on that. Yeah, I'd be happy to write in and provide my opinion. Does a motor and battery cost more or less than an ICE vehicle? That's a good question. I don't think so at the moment. I don't think so. Am I Republican? No. Sandy said motors have magic and 5 years ahead of competition. Yeah, I would agree. If Model Y production starts in Q1, when will it come to Europe? Well, if we use Model 3 as a timeline, you know, as like a worst case scenario, Tesla started production in the summer of 2017. It was a slow ramp, a very slow ramp. And so it was about a year and a half from when they started production in the US that European countries were getting the Model 3. So let's say a year. Let's say because they've got that process down, the Model Y shares about 75% of the same parts. There's not going to be too many variables there. They start producing vehicles, Model Y. I mean, let's say Q2 of 2020 to be like somewhere in the middle. You know, they could be summer of 2020 because that's what they've said publicly, but there's probably a pretty good chance that it's going to be sooner than summer of 2020. Will it be Q1? Maybe very, very low volume, but Q2, I'd feel comfortable saying that they're going to start then. So you might have it a year from Q2 2020, so Q2 2021. All right. How are we doing? 40 minutes here. I'll go for another 20 if you guys still have questions. The truck may give volume purchasing power to make putting rockets into space even cheaper. Yeah, you know, I think that's one thing that a lot of people have not talked much about, which is this cross-pollination. You heard me use that phrase in the Sandy Munro interview. Can they have purchasing power with the stainless steel? I mean, if they're going to be using it, and let's assume that it's going to be the exact same series stainless steel for both SpaceX rockets and Cybertrucks, you know, I would not be surprised one bit if Tesla starts making if this Cybertruck style, this origami style. I would not be surprised one bit if it ends up being rolled into their other lines of vehicles. I don't know. It's just I just think it's interesting. I just think that there's a lot of benefit to producing it like this. The only thing that I can think of, the only resistance, the only downside to the Cybertruck, and if they roll this into other vehicles, is just the look of it, right? Because the specs are phenomenal. The cost to produce the car is going to be very advantageous for Tesla. The durability is going to be really, really great. I think that they could roll this out. All right. Which truck has a sleek design? I wouldn't say there's any truck that has a sleek design. You're talking about just in general, right? Let's see here. I'll scroll back down in just a moment. Loud and clear from in Spain. Hey, Nick, thanks. All right. What did you think of his comment that Tesla Motors could be 5 years ahead of competition? Well, if there's anyone that knows, it's him, because they literally, I recently moved, and so a lot of my stuff is in boxes. But when I went to his one-day EV conference, Gally and I went, he gave us this booklet where they broke down battery cells. They broke down, they analyzed the materials, the raw materials in the magnets for the Model 3 motors. Oops. And so he said that this has the power that these magnets have are unlike anything that he's ever seen in an electric vehicle before. And the way that they've produced it is really smart as well. But yeah, I would agree. The type of magnet, the type of materials that are in these magnets for the permanent magnet motors in the Model 3 were quite remarkable compared to their competitors. All right, so I'm back down at the bottom here. Let me know if you have more questions, and I'll go for another 15 minutes here. So we'll end up maybe trying to wrap this up at the end of an hour of discussion here. Any off-camera tidbits from Sandy Munro? I'm trying to think of some that I can actually share. Yes, there were. Thanks for the $5 super chat. Appreciate it. I'm trying to think of what I can share. Yes, there were some off-camera things. I think he mentioned this. They did get a Nissan Leaf motor. That was a really weird looking motor. It was huge. It was huge. It was really, really odd to see how big it was in comparison to even other electric vehicle motors in other cars. How will the matte finish be applied? Anodizing, what does it mean for durability and cleaning? I mean, the way that I understand this is this should be incredibly durable and easy to clean, very similar to the DeLorean. Have you heard anything else about Tesla's advances in battery tech? Yes, I have, but none that I can share. Will the ultra capacitors permanently provide power to the motors, or only during moments of high charge discharge? So the way that I understand how ultra caps work is that they've got a high power output, but they're not they've got a low energy density. So it's like electrostatic, right? If you're walking through a house during the winter time and you've got carpet, you're creating that friction, and you touch something, it's like this instant discharge of electricity. That's how ultracapacitors work. And so I think that there's a lot of research, or there is some research on how to get the energy density higher. But to the best of my knowledge, and I don't follow the research closely, to the best of my knowledge, that doesn't exist to date. I do think it's interesting that Sandy said on that interview that he's heard from some other people that Maxwell did have this is a solid state. Sorry, mixing that up with the supercaps. Let's see here. Have you gotten a tour of Fremont or Giga? I have been through Fremont, but not Giga. I would love to, and that might be something that will happen in the near future. But they're really particular about who goes through that factory. Can stainless steel be rounded out to make the corners not so knife-like? My understanding is no. And Sandy talks about this too. He said that you wouldn't have heavy enough presses to smooth out the corners, and so that's why it's got to be that angular look. It's going to be scored instead of pressed. All right, let me scroll back down here. Current pre-orders, Cybertrucks, like how many total? Gosh, I mean, the last we heard was 250,000, right? Are there people still interested in the vehicle almost a month from when the event took place? Probably. In fact, when I was on this last trip, I talked with some people on the East Coast that I didn't know them. And I think one or two said that they actually did put in an order for a pickup truck. Sean has a secret. I have some things that I would get in trouble if I shared. I will say though, let's see. Some of the most recent videos that I've put out, particularly around battery technology, is based on research and other things. Yeah, Jens, feature complete is not the same as hands-off driving. Right. Yeah, you're exactly right. Thanks for clarifying that. That was definitely in my head, but I didn't make that clear. I mean, I think Elon is saying that it will be able to be fully hands-off in a year. That being said, I think that they have been planning this for many, many years. Will Cybertruck be produced in China or Berlin? I can't see Europe. I don't believe Europe is big into pickup trucks. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is China? I don't know. My understanding is Australia is into pickup trucks, so that could be a really interesting market. I want to say even South America is big into pickup trucks. North America for certain. I mean, if the total addressable pickup truck market in North America alone, or probably the majority of it, is 2 million trucks a year, I'd say it's worth it for them. It's worth it for them to spend the time and the money to produce that. Elon was planning his PhD based on ultra caps. Yeah, for sure. That's a really interesting. It's really interesting to sort of draw back on that. He's mentioned this publicly several times. In fact, I think I did a video and included an interview where he talked about his brief experience studying ultracaps. I think that there's more to be seen with ultracaps, to be quite honest. I think that we may see and hear more about ultracaps sooner rather than later. And I would not be surprised one bit if ultracaps end up going into Tesla vehicles. Latest news on tax credits. I've only been loosely following it. I think it failed. I think the tax credit for EVs in particular, the extension of it, did not get passed. Again, would the truck fit in current boring tunnel? Could be a game changing for transportation. So I still think boring tunnels are in their prototype stage. In fact, I think just today I got a reminder on Facebook that today, a year ago, I was at the Boring Company event. And the holes that they're digging for the Boring Company, my understanding is, and I could be wrong, that they're prototype size tunnels. I think that they can make these bigger. They just need larger boring machines. They can and should. So will the truck fit in it? Oof. Well, we know that the Model X fits in it. I don't know. It's a good question. I'd have to go back and watch the video of the Boring Company event. Why are dartboard players overweight? That's a really good one. I don't know. It's a good question. I'm stumped on that one. Giga 5 in Australia? Yes, I think so. That's the next natural place, right? And the amount of raw materials in Australia is very appealing. Very appealing. Is the market, is the automotive market in Australia large enough? I don't know the answer to that. Maybe those from Australia can comment on how many new vehicles are sold each year in Australia. Did Sandy really think the Cybertruck window could stop a 50 cal bullet? Well, I think he was going that direction, and I think that's why I sort of interjected to clarify that Tesla was saying that the body of the vehicle is bulletproof with a 9mm. However, to his credit in point, this Elon technology that he mentioned is bulletproof. I don't know if Tesla's using that or if they're implementing any of that, and if they are, why it didn't stop a steel ball. But where do you stand on Galley's electric plane theory? Which theory? I know he's talked about it before, but that they're going to make one. Has he talked about a timeline? I know that energy density, I think, was it at 400 watt hours per kilogram is where energy density needs to get in order for electric planes to be viable. Is my memory serving me correct? I'd feel extremely smart if that's correct, if that's what Elon has said. Well, you have to get a bigger garage. I don't know how big your garage is. Maybe. Will there be a mid-sized Cybertruck? I suppose there could be, if this one is successful. I think it's a little bit too soon to say, though. I mean, they have to start producing these vehicles, and they have to be well received, and I think could be possible. Okay, now we're getting questions come in here. Do you think Tesla checks regulation with foreign governments before they start to take pre-orders on Cybertruck? We have different weight rules in Europe than North America. The question is, do they have plans to sell outside of North America? Europe? I don't know. I don't know if there's a big truck market in Europe. My understanding is there's not. So maybe they address the North American and Australian market with with pickup trucks, and they spend their time there. They could also export from Australia to India. Yeah, really good point. Yeah, really great point. Or that sort of like Southeast Asia market. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I guess, if they're producing cars in China, you could also address that market too. But you're right. I think even Elon has said that they need a gigafactory on every continent. So it would not surprise me one bit. I saw a kind comment there from Ryan, I think. Thanks for the compliment, Ryan. Oh, cool, Kyle. Thanks for confirming. So the 400 watt hours per kilogram is what is needed for, or at least what Elon has said is needed for electric planes. Oh, we're starting to get these come in pretty quickly. How about Giga 5 in Chile, Argentina, quicker access? So, I thought about this. I mean, I would lump in like South America and Africa into similar situations in that you have these sort of potentially emerging markets. There are cars that people need to buy there, but I think long term, yeah, certainly, I think that could be the case. Expectations, thoughts on when and what to expect from next Investor Day. Well, there's two things that I would hope to hear about. Maybe three things. Number one, how Tesla's going to implement Maxwell tech into their batteries. Please come to Brazil. I would love to visit Brazil. I've never been. So number one, how Tesla's going to implement Maxwell, or just all of the companies that they've been acquiring as of late. Two, are they getting into the raw materials business? And then three, are they getting into the recycling business? Those are I think, they're the three things. I think that they want to control that entire supply chain and close that feedback loop, right? I think that they want to control everything from raw materials, from pulling things out of the ground, processing those raw materials to get it to a place where those materials can be used to be put into the cells. We already know that Tesla controls right now with their current process at Giga 1, they control making the modules and the battery packs, and then they put the battery packs in the vehicles. I think that they want to control that entire process. I would be willing to put some money down on it, actually. I'm highly confident that they want. I could be wrong. I just want to position this. I could be wrong, but I think they want to control that entire loop. Are you worried that the legacy auto will begin to push lobbyists and legislation against Tesla if they continue to fail to compete? I mean, I suppose it's a possibility. The good news is that European automakers are being forced by European governments to make electric vehicles. And so is the Chinese government. So you've got these two pretty large markets that are forcing automakers to make EVs. And then, you have the North American market. I could see Canada requiring something similar, like going from a national level, requiring automakers to go completely zero emissions by a particular date. America's just really resistant to those sort of things at a national level, and in some cases at a state level. There are some states that are pushing for more zero emissions vehicles because who'd think that exhaust coming out of petrol powered vehicles is actually harmful for people to breathe in. So I think that there's enough momentum in some countries for, I mean, that's one piece of the zero emissions vehicles or electric vehicle product succeeding. The other piece that I think electric vehicles have going for them is, less maintenance for consumers. So consumers will spend less money maintaining their car over time. In many cases, better performance. In almost every case, better performance, right? So better acceleration, better horsepower, better going uphill, generating energy going downhill. So you've got that piece. The only piece that is in the process of being worked through and worked out is the range piece. The range is just not competitive to a petrol-powered vehicle, but it's getting very, very close. We start getting into like, when we cross over the 400-mile range and 500-mile range, for at least the North American market. I realize that in some countries, people don't drive as much as North Americans do. But, I think that you have to be equally competitive with range compared to a petrol-powered car in order for this to really be convincing. Because who wants to stop more? If you go from a gasoline-powered car and you don't care about the environment, you're going to be stopping more often if you buy an electric vehicle today and you're on a road trip. So we're at an hour. Someone told me to go for 90 minutes. Do you want me to go for longer? Is this fun? Master Plan Part 3 thoughts. I know Gally talked a little bit about that. I do think it's going to include that beginning and end, the beginning of an electric vehicle, or the infancy of electric vehicle and the death of an electric vehicle. I think that Part 3 will be Tesla controlling raw materials, the cradle to grave. This is a great way to put it. Cradle to grave. So raw materials, and then when an electric vehicle dies, what happens to that battery pack? I think that's the next opportunity to innovate. That impacts cost of vehicles, right? That's a direct impact on profit margin, right? You're spending less producing an electric vehicle, but I think that also trickles down to consumers too. And at the moment, the only people that can really afford electric vehicles right now, and this has changed, right? It used to be for ultra wealthy and wealthy people, electric vehicles. They were like, $80,000 and up. When the original Roadster came out, this is like $100,000+ vehicle. So this was something that only ultra wealthy could afford. Now you've got vehicles that are in, below $40,000 US. And I would say that that's probably good for middle class, upper middle class, probably more appropriately. But your middle class and lower class, unless they buy a used electric vehicle, it's going to be very difficult. You can find some used electric vehicles for under $10,000, which is great, but they're not that great of an offering. The Nissan Leaf in particular, it still boggles my mind that they're making an electric vehicle that has no active cooling. So it's only passive cooling. So so I think that cradle to grave, and in fact, I don't know if anyone has coined this term for electric vehicles, but if they haven't, I'm coining it today. I think that this next part of the strategy is controlling the cradle to grave of an electric vehicle. What is Tesla's near-term plan to increase battery production? It's exactly what I'm talking about. They have to find ways to control cost of the battery pack. That is the most expensive part of the car. So controlling raw materials and then getting more life out of older electric vehicles by recycling the raw materials and reusing them, or selling the raw materials that can't be used for other purposes. That to me is where I think the biggest opportunity is at to reduce the cost of electric cars. Why is solid state so difficult? Timeline. Well, I just think that there needs to be more research. I think that their solid state is probably in its infancy, and let me think. I'm trying to remember if this was an on or off the record conversation. I think this is okay to talk about. So I had the wonderful opportunity to meet with Jeff Don. I was up in Halifax, Nova Scotia in August, and I had some really wonderful conversation with him. By the way, he's a phenomenal human being. He's incredibly humble. He is not the type of guy to crave the limelight. He just wants to focus on battery research. So I don't remember if this was in the video interview that I did with him, and you should check that out if you haven't done that. It was back in August that I did that. I apologize for the audio too. Had some audio issues there, but he told me that he thinks that solid state is 5 to 10 years away. And I don't know enough about the research process, but there's got to be something in that research process that requires or leads him to believe that there needs to be more research around it. So you can have a battery breakthrough, but it not be ready for the market, right? You can have a thesis or an initial technology, but it goes through many iterations, and it needs to be ready to go into consumers' hands, and that means that it can't just suddenly combust, or it can't mean that the vehicle breaks down or stops. And so reliability is a huge piece of that. You've got to have the reliability. Yeah, good point, Jens. Controlling the electricity of production of steel and raw material extraction. Yeah, for sure. Will Tesla make some of these earth diggers, electric earth diggers? I think that they could easily buy diesel-powered earth movers and diggers and electrify them with their own batteries and powertrain. That would be cool, wouldn't it? That would be really, really cool. In fact, they have done that with boring machines. They converted, because boring machines are diesel, and they took out the diesel motor, and they converted it fully electric. Did you hear about the solid state battery tech that Toyota will demo at the 2020 Olympic Games? Toyota has a massive problem on their hands. They've been talking down battery electric publicly. If they do show something off, I still don't believe, based on what I know, and again, I could be wrong, but based on what I know, I think that this is prototype. They're talking prototype technology. This is a PR grab on Tesla's part, or not Tesla, Toyota. This is a PR grab on Toyota's part. They are lost. They are a lost manufacturer, along with Honda. They are the two of them are. I'm really concerned for them. Yeah, Kyle, I think this is a really interesting thing here. I have been thinking about this along with Gally, the mining process, the environmental impact of the mining process. This is definitely something that personally you'll hear me talking more about on my channel in 2020. Okay, let's see here. Oh, Sid, thank you. Really interested to know if Tesla will adopt cyber design language in other models, given the S and X are maintained for sentimental reasons. Providing the market a cyber option may refresh those models in a serious way. Yeah. I mentioned this earlier in the live stream, and you may have missed it, but I would not be surprised one bit. There's a lot of reasons why this makes sense, or there's probably one big reason. Thank you, Ryan, for the super chat. There's one big reason why this makes sense, and it's the production efficiency of what they're doing with the exoskeleton, and probably more importantly with the 300 series stainless steel that they're talking about utilizing. I think that there are some cost efficiencies there with the production process, and it's just incredibly impressive to me that Tesla is continuing to question status quo and what is commonly accepted in the manufacturing of automobiles, right? I'm sure there's been innovations in the automotive industry with man, my shoulder's bothering me, with automotive manufacturing. But this seems to be a significant sidestep from what we're used to, and this is an entirely new approach. The exoskeleton, in particular, this is something that's very common in aviation and defense, to make airplanes with an exoskeleton. But this is not common at all in the automotive industry. And when I asked Sandy Munro this, he had a hard time thinking of a vehicle that had an exoskeleton, and he said the Model A or Model T. So to me, that's interesting, and I would imagine it was very different materials being used, not stainless steel. All right, so hopefully that addresses your question, Sid. Let me know if not. But I would not be surprised one bit. Oh, I want to add another thing to this, because I think that Elon is downplaying. I think that they're downplaying. He's downplaying the S and the X thing. I still think that the S and X have an incredibly important role in Tesla introducing their newest technology for their most expensive lines and lines that have the best profit margin. This makes a ton of sense to me because, you have theoretically slimmer margins with less expensive vehicles. And there's a reason why traditional automakers still sell these higher priced vehicles. It's their way of introducing some of this newer tech into their automotive lineup, and then it eventually rolls down when that cost and economies of scale starts to increase. So I think that they're downplaying S and X. I think that there is an update that's coming for S and X that will refresh. I don't have any like insider knowledge, but the plaid powertrain is interesting. The fact that we saw the horizontal display in the Cybertruck, as well as the updated HVAC system, does lead me to believe that they're thinking about this for their higher priced vehicles. All right, Brian. Thank you, Lee. Seeing a lot of reasons for Tesla to acquire Boring, especially if they get into mining, orders of magnitude. Will they acquire them, or will they just share technology? Do they need to acquire them? That's the question. Is it necessary for them to acquire it in order for them to use the technology? I would hope and expect that because Elon runs both companies, that they'd be able to sort of share that stuff back and forth, and maybe Tesla can make an investment into Boring Company, and there be some sort of like monetary exchange. But it makes, if they do get into the mining business, yeah, I mean, I don't fully understand the mining piece, and so I can't really speak with insight, which is one of the reasons why I'm going to be spending some time on the channel I'm going to be spending some time on the channel trying to understand better the mining process. This includes, but is not limited to, some field trips. So I'm working on some field trips, some on-site field trips. I want to understand it. I want to better understand, based on what I know about Tesla, how they could innovate the process. Maybe there's no innovation to be done, and I can just, maybe the only insight that I get is just to understand what that process looks like to date. And the mining industry is already is as innovative as it could possibly be. All right. Lee, thank you. Yeah, thanks for hanging out with me. Super cool that people want to listen. We're up to 365 people a part of the chat. All right, so buy some in upcoming dip. I mean, it's certainly a smart way to do it, and I highly recommend that. I at the moment, I don't own any shares of Tesla. I have in the past, but I don't own any. What's my job, Mark? My day job, residential real estate agent in the Denver area. So if you're looking for a house in the Denver area or looking to move to Denver, let's chat it out. Will we get biohazard quality HVAC in the truck? Sure. Yeah. I mean, at that price point, it does make a lot of sense. And I think the only reason why it's not in the Model 3 is because that front area there, the trunk area, is not big enough. It's not as big as Model S and X. So the pickup truck is huge. Kyle, you can help me understand mining? Awesome. Field trips where? Well, we'll just keep that a secret until I've solidified some of those things. But I have been in talks to do some field trips sometime in 2020. Isn't the Cybertruck prototype setting on an S platform? I don't think so. I haven't heard that, at least. Yeah, forget hunting and think law enforcement and military. Yeah, for sure. Some people said that the Bollinger was going to be a great military vehicle, which, certainly, but capability-wise, Tesla's Cybertruck just seems to be far exceeding over the over Bollinger in many ways. Maybe there's some exceptions, but yeah. Space, transport, biocom. Next industry to disrupt is for Tesla. As I said earlier in the live stream, I'm of the opinion that I think that they really need to focus. They could be doing a lot of stuff, but I think that they need to execute well on the markets that they have already said that they're getting into. If they just do that, I think they can do extremely well. I'm the Cyber Quad or the Cyber ATV doesn't really get me excited. Them getting into that market doesn't get me really excited, and unless I'm missing a use case that's obvious. I don't see why they should be dabbling with that at all. Low volume, niche market. I don't know. I feel the same about like any recreation transport. Winter, like snowmobiles, water sports, watercrafts. Maybe I don't know enough about the industry, but I think that there's a demand. There's more of a demand for vehicles on the road than there are for recreational vehicles off the road, be it trail or water or snow. The Cybertruck is not a cab on frame. but traditional trucks are a cab on frame. The Cybertruck is a completely different structure called an exoskeleton. With Maxwell dry anode tech, energy density improvements, lower production space, and high bar systems, automated battery manufacture, this alone satisfies higher volume needs for, yeah. I mean, it's clear that they had to solve this production, this volume problem for cells before before they start producing all of these other vehicles. And they said this publicly, so this is not like special information. They said this at the investor day over the summertime. Motor Trend did get exclusive access to the Cybertruck. I think I haven't read their article, but you know, in terms of the type of information that Motor Trend is talking about regarding the Cybertruck, they're pretty well informed. But I would be shocked. I would be shocked to read a quote from them that says that it's the body on frame, because it would be completely opposite of what Tesla's saying. Talk about how the stainless steel is not laminated like the thought in the previous video. It's thick stainless steel. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't make any bit of sense that someone would say that it's laminated. It is thick stainless steel. They talked about the cold rolled steel process. So that puppy is I think that they said 3 millimeters thick. You're saying that the Cybertruck prototype is on a body on frame, like a traditional truck? All right, we're at 1 hour and 21 minutes. Thank you. This is so nuts that you all care enough about what I have to say. Will Tesla make public transport buses? Well, I think that they've got concepts for the boring tunnels. So you'd have to believe that they've got, I mean, unless they use Model X, I mean, they could use the Cybertruck platform to make a public transport, you know, like a small transit vehicle, or, you know, a people mover. Buses, I don't think that's going to be anytime soon. There's some companies out there like Proterra. This is an aside. This is not tied to anything that I've mentioned on this live stream, but sometime in the new year, I'm going to go do a field trip to Proterra, and we were actually trying to nail it down in November, but just didn't work out for my schedule. So we're talking about doing it sometime in the new year. But Proterra does city buses. They're an American company. They develop their own battery packs and battery technology for their battery packs, cooling system. So apparently, from what they tell me at least, it's pretty impressive. And some of their executive leadership is directly from Tesla. Thanks, Aaron, for the super chat. Do you think the Cybertruck design style will be applied to smaller vehicles like a two-door smart car type vehicle, ultra safe small transport? I mean, do they necessarily need to do that is my first question. Why does it need to be the Cybertruck design or technology? So, you know, I'm assuming that you're talking about how it's being made with the exoskeleton and the stainless steel, the cold rolled stainless steel. Do they need to do that? Like, you know, is there a huge advantage or upside to doing that? They could easily make something with their current production process today, where they're using a unibody with you know, stamped panels put on it for a two-door car. I think that could easily be something that they could do today. The probably more important question is, can they do it affordably? So batteries are probably going to be an important part of that. Can they get a decent sized battery pack in there? I think ultimately, right now, today, if you were to ask Tesla that, I think they would probably say no, because there's probably a substantial addressable market. Might need to. I'm doing okay on my computer charge, but I can see it's starting to get low. Let's see if I can plug it in. Hold on. Let's see here. Will it reach? I think it will. Oops. Plugged in. Okay, let's go for 5 hours. Plugged in now. Yeah, I think it's an interesting question, Aaron. I don't know what the addressable market is for two-door like smart car style cars are. Certainly would be valuable in some of these countries and regions where you've got tight quarters like Europe. You've got very small roads where larger trucks and larger vehicles just don't fit. So it's possible. Will they do it now? I mean, you're talking about probably selling a vehicle for less if it's a smaller car. I think maybe a better addressable market would be to create a car that's smaller than the Model 3, like a subcompact that's 4-door. All right, so let me go back down to the bottom here. Can you elaborate about the crumple zones of the Cybertruck if Munroe talked about these? Yes, he did talk about this. It was a relatively short answer. He initially said, how did I phrase the question? I think I have it written down here. Let's see. I said, how will a Cybertruck do in a crash? And he said something to the effect of, it will do really well, but not so much for the other vehicle. And oops. And so one of the cases that he made is that by the time this comes out, the crash avoidance technology in the automotive market may be so good that it may make crumple zones unneeded. I guess, so if you've got a smart enough car that's able to that's able to stop before it hits something, I think you're sort of the crumple zones become less and less important. So that was sort of his angle there. Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Chris. He said it will win. The Cybertruck will win in a crash. Don't you think Tesla won the hearts of people if people think it can't crumple? I don't know. This could be a new innovation here. This could be like disrupting a new part of making a vehicle. If I'm sure that they've thought about the safety piece. That's a big part of how they make the cars. But I'd also think that it's interesting that they didn't talk about the safety piece in their presentation. The last vehicle presentations that I've seen from them, they've always made the safety component an important part of it. Yeah, I mean, so if the Cybertruck crashes into another truck, then that's the mass of the Cybertruck is going to be huge. But I think to Sandy's point, if the crash avoidance is so good, maybe it can avoid most of that. Now, if a vehicle crashes into the Cybertruck, yes, but I mean, vehicles crash into solid things, often. So I don't know. I think that there's probably some more to learn and understand there. I will say that. How are we doing here? We're at an hour and a half. Greetings from Germany. Hello. I was just reading a question about the market in Germany. I would not be surprised if Tesla does not introduce this vehicle outside of North America and maybe Australia. They can, if they can produce, 500,000 to 1 million trucks just in North America, I think they're going to be all right. I think they will be all right. Joel, hey Joel, sorry we couldn't connect in Boston. Why do you think they didn't have Tesla badging on it? Will the production car have badging? I think that this is a new design approach from Tesla. I mean, they could put it on, but I seem to recall somewhere that was intentional, not having the badging on there. This could be the new design approach, and this is again why I would not be surprised if this is Tesla's new design, the origami angular approach. I would not be surprised if this is the new direction of their vehicles. I think that they just need to prove that there's demand for this look, this style of a car. And I think that there is. I think the main reason why people had such a visceral reaction when they revealed the truck is because it was so different. It's not because, some people thought it was ugly, but could you imagine going from the horse and carriage to the automobile? I bet a lot of people thought that the automobile was ugly because people only knew horse and carriage. Right? The horse is a beautiful form of transportation. It's a beautiful creature. And then you start introducing these boxy vehicles, and I bet people were thinking, what is going on here? Crazy analogy, but it might just be good in retrospect after I think about it a little bit. Yeah, the badging definitely is, the fact that it doesn't have any badging is definitely interesting. That could have been something that they easily added. If they had the intention of adding it on, long term in production, they could have easily done that with a prototype. I don't think that I don't think they just didn't have time to do it. I think that very well could be their new design style. Yeah, Matteo. In terms of producing this, this is going to be a new way to make things, and that is another reason why it could make a lot of sense for them to roll this production style into other vehicles. This is going to be a completely different production process. It's not like I would maybe. I'm thinking about this before I say it. Will they be able to put the Cybertruck production on the same line as some of the other vehicles? I wonder if they're going to need to have a separate production line. You can tell it's getting dark and cloudy. No, I don't know what the wattage of the rear outlet's going to be. It should be very capable, very, very capable. You got a massive battery pack. Should be very capable. Replace S and X with Cybertruck? No, I think they'll still make the S and X. There's plenty of people who need the function of a full-size sedan and the function of, I could see them doing an SUV version of the Cybertruck. That makes sense. Like, I would love for them to get rid of the Falcon Wing doors. That might be like Tesla heresy, but they're just too problematic. They look cool, but they're too problematic in my opinion. Okay, so Nathan, why would you need to put a label on something that looks? Yeah, I mean, it helps identify what type of car it is. That's for sure. But maybe the design is so distinct that it doesn't need any badging. All right, so a couple more minutes here. Any more questions? Still going strong. 355 people. Favorite YouTubers? Nice personal question. Well, I'm a pretty frequent watcher of Galley, Hyperchange. I do like his stuff. I'm a frequent watcher of MKBHD. I love his content. I love the quality of it. Who else do I watch? Let me look at my my stream here. Thank you, Kyle, for pledging $10 on Patreon. That's super cool. Thank you so much. That means a lot. While I'm pulling this up here, and thank you to all of my other Patreon supporters as well. This is, you know, the trip to see Sandy Munro that was done on my own dime. The trip out to LA for the Cybertruck event done on my own dime. So support is definitely, I always admire and appreciate when someone does that. I don't talk about it a lot because maybe I should, but I don't. But I definitely want to I want to do a better job at thanking Patreon supporters for sure. What up, Hyperchange? Yeah, Andy Sly. I do like his stuff. I'm looking through. So I've got Joe Rogan. There's Hyperclips. I do occasionally watch E for Electric. I don't watch all of his stuff, but I do like him. Non-EV stuff. I do love Gary V. Any Gary Vaynerchuk fans out there? He's been a mentor from afar for me for a long time. Key and Peele, they're comedians. They're fun. Donut Media. Do you guys watch Donut Media? Those guys are hilarious. Hilarious. Like Tesla, I do enjoy Like Teslas. I know Brian from I Win Tesla, but I don't watch his stuff. He's great though. He's awesome. I met him at the Cybertruck event. Big fan of Gary V. Seeing some of his stuff here, some real estate ones. Tom Ferry. If you guys are in real estate, Tom Ferry is a really good one. I don't watch as much of Bjorn Nyland's stuff, but I am subscribed to him. Financial Education, Jeremy from Financial Education. He's super cool. We'll drop in on his videos occasionally. Drag Times, who doesn't like drag racing. Fully Charged. I am subscribed, but I'm not a frequent watcher of them. I will watch some of the ones that sort of jump out as unique content. But let's see, who else is in my feed here? Oh, What's Inside? Love Dan. Yeah, Simone. I don't know if I'm subscribed to her, but I like her. I like her a lot. What's Inside? I had a chance to talk with Dan extensively at the Cybertruck event, and so big shout out to Dan. He is such a kind human being. Big fan of him as a human. All right, so who else? God, what is it called? Smarter Every Day. No, I don't watch Smarter Every Day. Should I? Derek. Yeah, I do watch some of his stuff. You know, it's interesting. So, I'm a big fan of a lot of people's stuff. But limited time is one of those things that prevents me from following everyone. Jerry Rig Everything, yeah, I do like him. I think he's a super cool guy, super like low key. I've talked with him on a couple of occasions. Jennifer, sorry if this is late, but just tuning in now. What are your thoughts on and Sandy Munro's thoughts on the interior of the Cybertruck? We didn't talk about that. That's so crazy. I'm glad you brought that up though. Is something in there as revolutionary as the outside? That dash seems interesting, like that paper dash. That's super curious to me. I do think that that's interesting. The glass, of course, though it's not technically inside, but it certainly impacts the interior. The digital rear view camera, that's certainly, though it's not like new to cars, it's new to Tesla. To me, that's super interesting. Let's see here. Yeah, I was reading one of the comments there. I won't mention publicly. Yeah, but interior of the Cybertruck, the 17-inch horizontal screen is definitely interesting. I think that's a hint at SNX, where SNX is going. But that paper dash, that's interesting to me. Really interesting to me. One of the other things that I've thought about is how strong the glass is for the side windows or doors. Are they going to need, if this gets into an accident, it's, like emergency services is not going to be able to break the glass. And so has Tesla thought about like an emergency drop of the window, similar to what the Model 3 has? Is it going to be able to like just drop into the door so that someone can get them? Because otherwise, like, how would emergency services get someone out if the doors are not opening? That's definitely something that I'm sure that they've thought about. Any other questions? Yeah, I watched Jack's video. In fact, this is going to sound incredibly naive of me, but I just discovered like 2x speed, and now I can probably watch a few more of Jack's videos. I set him at like 1.7. 1.7 seems to be the sweet spot for Jack's videos. Living in a Cybertruck, I'm sure there will be some people that will do that. Now you know. Yep. Yep. Those are good guys. Love those guys. Zach and Jesse. Dr. Becky. Cool. Dr. Becky, like a female physicist. I like that. Yeah, Jack on 1.75x. Yes, absolutely. I felt like I discovered air for the first time when it was like over the weekend, because people kept referencing Jack's Cybertruck conversation. I'm like, no, I'm not going to watch that. It's a little bit too slow paced for me. And then I start, yeah, Gallia on 0.5, totally. You know what I realized? Just a side thought. And let me finish my thought there. But so I discovered like increasing the speed of YouTube videos, and I'm like, damn, I feel like I discovered the sliced bread. Anyways, Galli. So I've gotten used to the way that he talks when he does his own videos. I like his pace. It took a little while to get used to, but when he's on with me, or when we're doing like a discussion. Hello, Albino Silva. When we're doing a discussion, I know that he sort of slows down his pace, so it's not like. I just think it's a different style of talking for him when he's doing his own videos. I just think he's talking stream of conscious. But when he's on with other people, I think that he sort of has to slow down the pace because he's listening and then responding to what someone is saying. Damn, we're going to go like 2 hours. This is the longest live stream that I've done. Joel, when you think that they... okay. When you think that they could have made, damn, it's like hard because the questions are coming in. An aluminum, can I click on it and stop it? An aluminum truck that could be smooth and rounded. I don't know. It is angular and masculine. They also made it tough. If this is first principles, yeah, I don't know. What do you think about Tesla or the Boring Company deliver cargo containers through tunnels? Yeah, it's certainly possible. Yeah, good point, Jennifer. There's not been a lot of people that have talked about the interior. You got to think that they've thought about, like emergency services need to get into the inside of the car if the doors are badly damaged, or for whatever reason, the power is disconnected from the doors and they can't open. All right, so we're at an hour 45 minutes. What's another 15? If you give me some questions, I'll stay in for another 15. Brightly colored seatbelts for emergencies. Uh-huh. Especially with no interior lighting and boring tunnel traffic, yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely thinking a lot about the Model Y for myself. I could, I mean, for those that follow my channel closely, you know that I'm over 200,000 miles on my Model S. So I'm definitely thinking about that. Thanks for all the answers on YouTube and Twitter. Regards. Yeah, thanks, Chris. Thanks for jumping on the live stream. Here's a crazy question. This is something that occasionally I go back to every once in a while, but who would like to see another Hypermile with Eric and I? Who'd like to see us do another Hypermile? We need to figure out like an actual vehicle. Maybe it's the Model Y. Any interest in us doing another Hypermile? We did a Hypermile about 1.5 years ago in a Model 3 rear-wheel drive long range. Are you secretly paid by Tesla? No. That's a funny question. Probably tongue-in-cheek, right? Make it a contest between 2 cars. I haven't seen that video. I didn't realize it was 2 cars. Yeah, so Hypermile is basically seeing how far you can stretch a vehicle, how far you can take it with an electric car. It's how many miles you can drive on a single charge. So when Eric and I did this about 1.5 years ago in a Model 3, we managed to drive 607 miles on a single charge. So we pumped up the tires, and then we drove the car like between 20 and 25 miles per hour for 36 hours straight. So that was kind of crazy and fun. When do you think the battery investor day will be? I think it'll be, let's see, January, February, March. I think it'll be either March or April. Probably April. I don't think they're going to do it in a bad quarter. I'm getting tired. Need a drink. Is the Cybertruck the long anticipated Tesla killer? Maybe. Yeah, it's possible. I mean, I've said this, probably this is the 4th time now, but I think this could potentially be the new design style for all of their cars. Is the Cybertruck the long anticipated Tesla killer? Let's see here. What, Anita, what do you mean by a jack? Info on a jack? Like, will it be able to be jacked up? Is that what you're asking? Yeah, the stream, we're at 1 hour and 48 minutes. It would be cool if you could see it on your side. It's getting dark anyway, so, and I definitely did not, I mean, I could be persuaded to go get some lighting here, but I should probably get some other work done. Hello. Hey, Vladimir Putin. Hilarious. What service and maintenance have you had to do with your Tesla? Any issues with software keeping up with current? The software is working incredibly good. I mean, they've done a phenomenal job. It is not as zippy as the new MCU. I have had some things done service-wise. I did a video back in November where I detailed all of my service over 200,000 miles. Yeah, go get coffee and lights. Okay, yeah, a jack to change a tire. Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. We'll definitely need a larger jack, right? Heavier vehicle, taller. Yeah, this is a good question, Rory. Does this mean China-made Teslas will have lower range? No, that would be silly of Tesla to do that. I think that what could likely happen is Tesla's using other suppliers for the interim until they can start manufacturing their own. That's my prediction. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, I guess, yeah, you're right. You're right about the pneumatics. It'll probably sit lower when it's in jack mode, just like S and X. I think that's what it does, right? I have coil suspension, so I'm not as experienced with that. Okay, 10 more minutes. 10 more minutes. How's the real estate market been this fall? It's pretty cyclical. So it is crazy in the summertime, and then once September hits, it starts to slow down until the bottom of the market in January. It's a big reason why you've seen me doing more videos now, because I actually have the time. I was just so like August to October was just mind-bogglingly busy with real estate. So I wasn't publishing a lot of content in the summertime. But it's good. It's not as good as it used to be, but it's still a really great seller's market. Most unusual, crazy use case for Cybertruck. I mean, the sky's the limit, right? A boat. I mentioned that earlier in the live stream. Is Sandy going to cut? That's an expensive car, but he could do it. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be high volume, the Taycan. So probably not. I'm going to say no. I mean, he's extremely interested in the Model Y. Yeah. I mean, is the Cybertruck going to be amphibious? That's the question. Yeah, the Taycan. I want to like it a lot. It's a beautiful car. I've seen it in person on a couple of occasions, but the 201 mile range for a performance vehicle. Thanks, John Glenn. Appreciate that. Thank you. The 201 mile range for a performance vehicle, if you're driving this as a performance car, is going to be maybe 50% of that. If you're driving it, as your daily driver, it's $150,000 or higher is an expensive car. They're going to offer less expensive ones, but it's going to be a niche product. I really wanted it to be more than what it is. The range is just, I was disappointed. I was hoping it would be closer to 300. Do you only work at a Denver area, or do you cover all of Colorado? I don't need to sell my house right now, but I'm just curious. It's so mainly the Front Range area, Denver Front Range area. It would have to be. It depends on the price point of the house that would take me outside of my market. It's time. You know, it's travel time. It would require me to get licensed in another market, which is not necessarily difficult, but it would have to be the right price for it. So I would either, you know, if it was the right price for me, then I would absolutely love to take it. If it's not the right price, then I might try and help you find an agent that I trust to take good care of you. So let's definitely keep in touch, Jennifer. I used to live in Colorado Springs, so I know that market well. I would probably take that. You know, Fort Collins, all the way up to Fort Collins, I would probably take. Outside of that, we would have to talk. Yeah, you're touching on some hot buttons here. The Mach-E. The Mach-E, I don't know if it's going to get close to the 300. I would be surprised if it did. I think it's going to be similar to what we've seen with all these other vehicles that are non-Tesla. They touted a higher range, and then when they end up getting the EPA range, it ends up being less. Any suggestions about contacting Tesla for issues regarding the truck pre-order? I would say I'm thinking about the best way to do this. Why don't you send me an email? Send me an email to Sean at allthingsev.info. Sean, SEAN, at allthingsev.info, and I'll help you there. All right, 4 more minutes. Thanks for the thumbs up too. Appreciate that. 4 more minutes. Any other questions? These are fun. This is definitely fun. Oh, how much are your ranges affected in mountainous Colorado? When you visit Boulder, does it drop? So I just drove to Beaver Creek a couple of weeks ago. I mean, it was great. You know, you do go uphill, but you also go downhill. So, you know, I think that's a cool thing about electric cars. When you go downhill, you're generating electricity back into the battery. All right, live in the Springs. Okay, cool. Yeah. Let's definitely. Ooh, you got Tesla Solar too. Ooh, 5-bed, 2-bath. Awesome, Jennifer. Well, let's whenever your time is right, whenever your timing is right, let's definitely have a conversation. I'd love to help you. What makes you interested in the Tesla story? When are you doing this again? What do you mean, Lee? Let's see here. I just think there's the environmental impact. There's the environmental aspect of it. I've also been very fascinated with the economics of electric cars too, and it has proven to be exactly what I thought. Can a 2016 Model S be upgraded to full self-driving? I don't believe so. You should check with your service center, though. I don't believe so. I'm pretty certain, because you probably have Autopilot 1, right? 2016. I guess you're probably in that sort of. Damn, it's getting dark and grainy. Thanks, Walter. Appreciate it. What country is it? Where am I at? I'm in the U.S. Doing a last year again. Denmark. Tesla to buy Panasonic. No. Panasonic's too expensive. Tesla can just do their own thing. Cool. Okay. Two more minutes. Minute and a half. Anything else? You can barely see me probably. It's like all grainy on my side. Hopefully that comes out okay on your end. It's not good in low light, I guess. Yeah, dark in Iowa. Yeah. Okay, so I'll just say some thank yous while everything's coming in. So thank you for hanging with me for a couple of hours. Really appreciate it. Thanks to Patreon supporters. Really appreciate that as well. And means a lot. Your time is valuable, and means a lot that you give me some of that time. So thank you, and catch everyone on the next video.